And I remember thinking, well, if I want to get my book out there, I don't have a lot of money I didn't have money to invest in a team or somebody to market me or anything like that. So I was like, what do I have? Social media. It's free.
Mhm.
So
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I'm your host, Angela Duncan. Today's episode, I get to interview Amberly Lago. What an incredible story. Talk about true grit and resilience. She will share with you the accident that changed her life and all of the amazing things that has come since then, including building out an incredible community, being on stages, inspiring other women. Definitely going to talk about her new book coming out, Joy Through the Journey, so much more. Hi, Amberly. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast.
thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here with you.
Yes, I'm excited. I have been working on getting on your calendar for a little bit. I know you're busy, but I had the chance to see you at an event and your speech was just amazing. And so I thought it
Oh,
would be incredible to share with my audience as well.
oh, well, thank you so, so much.
Yeah. So why don't we start with your story? I know you're doing incredible things today, but that wasn't always the case for you. So let's wind back the clock a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a wild and crazy journey for sure. And to be on Zoom recording a podcast with you right now is something I never would have imagined myself doing. I mean, 6 years ago, I didn't even own a computer. Uh, and gosh, it's been 14 years ago that my life was completely turned upside down. I had an incredible career in the fitness industry. I employed several other trainers that worked alongside me. And I was coming home from work when I got hit by an SUV while riding my motorcycle. And so many people were like, wait, were you on the motorcycle? I'm like, yep, I was on my motorcycle coming home from work. And that day changed my whole life. I didn't realize when I was laying in the middle of the street, just like this is kind of crazy, but maybe you can relate to this as an entrepreneur. When I was lying in the street, I remember looking down at my leg. Now, I had no idea that my femoral artery was severed. I looked down at my leg and it was completely crushed into pieces. And I remember hanging on to my leg. I didn't want to let go
Mm.
because I thought my leg might fall off if I don't hang on to my leg. But in that moment, one of the first thoughts that I had was, okay, well, how am I going to train clients? This might be kind of crappy to have to kind of have to suck to train clients on crutches for a while. But I had no idea just how it was going to change my life. I didn't realize that in that moment that I was literally bleeding out. And I also never imagined that I would go through 34 surgeries to save my leg from amputation and and where I am today. I mean, it's been a hard journey. I think one of the hardest things has been I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, which is it's dubbed the suicide disease because it's a chronic illness that they say there's no cure for. I'm still searching for a cure. But after my accident and I was diagnosed with this as an accident, people think, oh, well, the accident's the hardest thing that you've been through. No, it's actually living with constant chronic pain every single day. In fact, I just got a message from a friend of mine and she was like, hey, I have a friend I'm having lunch with. What's that disease that you have that like, because she's got a lot of nerve pain. And so I told her, she goes, "Oh no, they've ruled that out." And I'm like, "Well, thank goodness,
Mm,
because that constant chronic pain, it has been a blessing to me in some ways, because it is pain has been a teacher to me.
mm,
But I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's hard. I mean, it is hard to deal with constant chronic pain. And people, a friend of mine the other day was like, "Wow, so I didn't know you were still in pain." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm still in pain every day." But like I said, I don't, I think pain has taught me a lot. And I even have like a sticky note on my desk that said, "God doesn't waste pain." So,
mm.
what can we do to transform that pain into purpose and go help somebody else?
Right. And one of the things I remember you talking about too from the accident and the surmounting medical debt. I mean, I feel like not only is the accident overwhelming, learning about what's going to happen or what's next and what's going on with your career, but then also accumulating this huge pile of debt from something that was completely out of your control.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. And this accident also changed a lot for my husband and I, because um, when I had my accident, we have separate bank accounts. Now we are on the same bank accounts. But when I was in the hospital in a coma, he could not pay the bills because he couldn't access my account. So it changed a lot of things. And, we just recently, well, I say recently, a couple of years ago, we moved to Dallas. And I remember, after moving boxes and being so busy and doing all these things, sitting outside, we have these little single hammocks, and my daughter and I was sitting outside, and I just got emotional, and I just had tears of gratitude, that I was like, "Wow, I was look at all that I've been through, and I'm able to buy a house for my family. I'm able to finally get out of debt and I think that you can go after your dreams, doesn't matter what happens, if you just take one step at a time, one day at a time, that your dreams are possible. And I just got super emotional when I was sitting in that hammock and I looked at the house and I was like, "Wow, I can't believe, coming from $2.9 million worth of medical expenses and having a lien on our house, that I'm able to buy a home for our family."
Mm. What time period in your career did you decide and like what inspired you to share your story and start helping other people as you experienced such a traumatic event?
Well, that's such a good question. I remember being at the gym, and I was working out at the gym, and I was working out. I'd go in my wheelchair, I'd go on crutches, I'd go limping, but I showed up. And I remember the day that I could first just get my leg to bend enough to turn to be on the bicycle at the gym, and the stationary bike, and be able to pedal the bike. And I remember the first time I did that in physical therapy, my physical therapist, Terry, I was like, "Look, Terry, look, I can move my leg around." He goes, "Well, but it's not pretty." And I said, "But hey, I can do it." But I remember sitting on the bike, and one by one, these people would come over and talk to me and tell me what was going on with themselves, and tell me their story. And I had this lady that was sitting next to me. She goes, "Oh my gosh, don't you get tired of that? That just must get so tiring, of people coming up to you and telling you their problems and wanting advice." And I said, "Well, no, because I know I can help them."
Mhm.
And I started having people say, ask me to reach out to their aunt that was having a hard time, that couldn't get off the sofa. I started I remember the first time I had somebody ask me to speak at a networking event. And I remember driving there. And first of all, I didn't even own a suit. So I was going to speak to financial advisors, realtors, and like all these fancy people. And I was like, well, all I had was workout clothes. My whole career was in the fitness industry.
Mm.
And I remember going to Nordstrom's and saying, hey, I need to buy a suit. She goes, well, what size are you? And I said, I have no idea. And so I had this suit, bought this fancy suit, and I'm on my way to go speak at this event. It's a networking event, and I've been asked to be their guest speaker. And I called my dad and I said, hey, I'm on my way to go speak at this event. And he goes, why would you want to do that? Don't you know public speaking is the number one fear other than death itself? And I was like, well, thanks, Dad. And he goes, well, just remember this. It's not about you. It's about the people you serve. And I
Mhm.
never forgot that. And so from that event, I got asked to speak at another event. Then I got asked to speak at another event. And then I remember, um, I love Mel Robbins. And I remember seeing in her story that she was speaking at some event. So I went to that she had tagged them in her story. And I went to that story and I just reached out and left a DM and I was like, hey, I would love to take part in anything you need help with at this event. Whatever I can do, I'm your girl. I can help out in any way. And the person who messaged me back happened to look at my page and I didn't have a big following. Um, I didn't have a big following, but she had just had an ankle surgery and she resonated with my story because I'd been through so many surgeries with my leg. And she said, hey, well, as you can imagine, we've been planning this event out for the past year and we don't have any space at all for an extra speaker. Now, the speakers were Mel Robbins, Brandon Burchard, Dean Graziosi, Bedros Keuilian, I mean, Ed Milet, like you name the biggest speakers, they were all there. I think the only other speaker that wasn't speaking was maybe Tony Robbins. And I got on a phone call with her and she goes, well, hey, I tell you what, if you promote our event, then we'll give you VIP tickets. And I said, you know what? I love my friends on Instagram and my social media following. I was like, and I don't want to tell them to go somewhere if I'm not taking part of it. So
Mhm.
could I at least like come and sell my books at the back of the room? And she got back to me and she said, well, you know what? Your push was exactly what the founder wanted to hear.
Mhm.
And not only are they going to let you come speak on their stage for 5 minutes, but they're going to let you sell books. We're not letting anybody sell books at our event except for you. And you're going to be able to set your books up next to our entrance. And started crying. So I had 5 days to figure out what to say in 5 minutes, get my plane ticket, figure out what to wear. But that was my first like real break
Big
into
stage.
being able to speak. And I've had so many people go, well, weren't you upset that they only gave you 5 minutes? And I was like, are you kidding me? I was so grateful they gave me 5 minutes. And so now what I do for my mastermind members is I give them 5 minutes on stage at our annual event. And I'm like, 5 minutes is a lot harder than 50 minutes of a keynote. And so if you can master 5 minutes, then you're on your way, you know. But that was kind of my first experience with being on stage. And now I'm so grateful that I get to speak at a lot of events and hold my own event every year.
Yeah, and you talked about, you understood the value that you could give to their audience. So you did push back a little bit. And I think a lot of times, especially as women, we're nervous to do that. So that is a great inspirational story there. Um, you talked about your community. What made you decide, what inspired you to start a community, and what does it look like today?
Oh, well, thank you for asking that. Um, when I first started out, I mean, oh my goodness, I had no idea what I was doing. I remember when I wrote my book, the publisher said, "Hey, Kay, you've got this book deal. We publish your book, but if you want that book in people's hands, we don't do any marketing, we don't do any branding. It's up to you to do it." And I was like, "Oh gosh, well, where do I start? What do I do?" And, I had an Instagram account, but it was basically to kind of stalk my oldest daughter and see what she was doing on Instagram and posting. I had no social media following whatsoever. Angela, nothing. I mean, I think I had 3 followers, and it was like my mom and my dad and a cousin. Like, that was it. And I remember thinking, well, if I want to get my book out there, I don't have a lot of money I didn't have money to invest in a team or somebody to market me or anything like that. So I was like, what do I have? Social media. It's free.
Mhm.
So I knew I had a year from that moment until my book was going to launch. And in that year, I knew I wanted to provide value, 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 like as much value as I could. And I committed to posting 5 days a week. And the only time I could post was before I started with clients in the morning, before I took my daughter to school. And so every day I started posting anywhere between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning. And I just kept that up and I started being real consistent with it. And I think after a while, if you just keep adding value, you start finding the people that you're meant to connect with.
Mhm.
And, you know, some people don't like social media. Yeah, I think it can be a love-hate relationship. I love it because when I released my book, every book signing that I didn't say, "Come to my book signing and buy my book." I was like, "Could you please meet me at the Barnes& and Noble in Calabasas? Because I am scared to death that I'm gonna be here all by myself. Can you please just come and hang out with me and hug my neck?" Do you know, at every book signing across the United States, I sold out of books? That's not because I'm the best author. It's not because I had the biggest name. In fact, Books and Books in Miami, we sold out right away. We sold out of all the books. We sold out. Uh, at Barnes and Noble, we sold out 3 times over. So that means my husband had to make 2 trips back to the house, and Barnes and Noble bought books from us, which they had never done. Again, that's not because I'm the best writer or have the best book. It's only because it's the power of community and
Mhm.
connection. And so, when I was trying to figure all that out, I wish that I had a place to connect with community. And that's why I started my mastermind, which, is for faith filled women who have a purpose and they want to get on stages and they have a book in them they want to write, they want to share, they want to start their podcast or they want to up level their podcast. And so the reason I started my Unstoppable Life Women group is because I have to say, So often I speak at events and I'm the only female speaker. In
Mhm.
fact, I'm speaking at an event next week. And I told my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the only female speaker. And he's like, oh, that's great. And I'm like, no, that's not good. We need more female speakers out
Yes.
there
Mhm.
sharing their message, sharing their voice. And so I love working with women. I love empowering women. I love making connections for women. And so that's why I started the mastermind to share all the mistakes that I went through because I definitely I did. I made a lot of mistakes. And I don't want other women, if I can save them the time and the money, and I can say, hey, go from here to here this quick. Let me show you how. That's what I want to do. I love doing that.
Mhm. And you're authentic, so your audience sees that about you, and you're not coming from, a sales background necessarily, right? And so when you're just saying, "Hey, come see me, give me a hug," they wanna be part of that community. They wanna support you because you have taken that, "I'm going to serve and give first." And I think that's a huge, common thing that I see with people who have successful communities is that they give. They give so much, and then their community is appreciative of that.
Oh, well, thank you. And yeah, I don't have a background in sales. And I've had advice from people on my team that are like, you mean you still get on calls for people who are interested in your mastermind? And I'm like, yeah, I sure do. And I've had people get on a call with me like, oh wow, you're actually getting on the call with me. Well, I think energy is everything and everything is energy. And um my mastermind, I love it. I mean, in fact, I'll just tell you a quick story. So my husband is a retired cop. He was lieutenant commander with the CHP, and we were when we lived in California. And when we bought our house here in Texas, I remember seeing the upstairs and I was like, oh man, this would be perfect for a mastermind gathering. That was one of my things that I was like, yeah, I like this house. Oh yeah, I'm going to have masterminds here. Of course, he didn't know any of that. Um, so we had moved in. He knows how important my mastermind is to me. And so I was like, hey, honey, um, I want to have a mastermind meetup at the house. So we'll do a day at the house. We'll be upstairs. We won't bug you too much. And he was like, oh no, no way. And then the very next day he goes, Amberly, I know how much you love these ladies. Okay, you can do it. So we had our first mastermind meetup at the house over a year ago. And now he's like, so when the ladies coming back over, the ladies love me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. And believe me, the ladies do love him. Everybody loves my husband. He's an amazing, amazing man. But I love what I get to do. And like I said, it's my favorite thing that I get to be on this journey with these women.
What would you say is your biggest takeaway from that first mastermind? Because, sometimes we have this vision of what it's going to look like, what's it going to feel like. And then when you go through the process, you may have completely learned something different from that event.
Um, my biggest takeaway actually is that no matter what, I want to keep doing the work that I get to do because seeing I got to brag on somebody real quick. Her name's Jana Johnson, and she's in my mastermind, and I'll make sure to share this episode with her. So, when I had my first event that was a bigger event. I'd had other mastermind gatherings, but this one was at a hotel. And I remember seeing this gorgeous lady walk in. And I was like, who's that? And she's kind of hiding over in the corner.
Hmm.
And I was like, who's that gorgeous lady? And it was Jana Johnson. And when I first met her, she had no social media presence. She did not have a book. She did not have a podcast. She didn't have a platform. And that day at that event, I said, I challenge each and every one of you today to make a reels, to go on social media and do a post.
Hmm.
And she did it. And she said it took her hours to
Hmm.
make that post, and she did it. And fast forward to today, she's been in the mastermind now for over 2 years. And she is a best-selling author. She's got her own podcast. And now, oh my God, she posts more than I do. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to start posting more like Jana does now.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I just wanted to brag on her because to to see somebody that was in fear of showing up, in fear of just being on social media and sharing their truth, to see somebody forget the book, forget the podcast, forget all the other accolades. She's in media all the time now. The thing that I love the most is to see her step into her power and be confident
Hmm.
and own her truth and shine bright. And that, man, that's what I love seeing.
Mhm. Yeah.
I want to see, I mean, and I've got women that, man, they got amazing stories. And let me walk you through how to share it, how to tell it, how to do it. Because I think we all have a voice, and I think that we need to really support women because I think there's a lot of competition out there. And
Mhm.
if we realize that, you know what, let's collaborate, let's come together.
Love that. All right. So we're going to talk about your book that is coming out, Joy Through the Journey. And I know you're also a God loving person. So I wanted to pull out a Bible verse that I saw the other day that reminded me of the book. And it's from Nehemiah, verse 8:10. And it says, "Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." And I just feel like that empowers so much of you and your story and your book. So, what inspired you for this book? And tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. First of all, I need you to send me that quote. I need to add that to the book. Seriously. Um, so Joy Through the Journey, I was actually doing a podcast recording with John Gordon. I don't know if you know who John Gordon is, but he's written over 30 books. He's amazing. He's one of my favorite authors and people on the planet. And I was on his podcast and we finished recording, and he's like, "Hey, Amberly, you know what? I'm really good at titles for books. And I think your next book should be Joy Through the Journey."
Hmm.
So I had this sticky note, no kidding you, sticky note on here it is right here, still here. Had this sticky note on my computer for like 2 years. And I always thought, well, I would love to write this book, but somehow, some way, I got so many other things. It's on the back burner. And then I also was like, I would really love to have Wiley be my publisher.
Mm,
who they've published all John's books,
right.
Ed Milet's books, Ben Newman, Renee Rodriguez, you name it. They've published some huge books.
Hmm.
And I get an email one day and they're like, "Hey, Amberly, we'd like to get on a call with you to see if you have any book ideas." I set up a call. Angela, I start pitching this book. I'm like, "Yeah, I got this idea for the book. I have, I'm just talking about it." And they're like, "Okay, we need a proposal in 2 days." In 2 days, I whip up 13 chapter titles and subtitles and the intention for the book and everything else. And sometimes all you need is that little kick in the butt to
Hmm.
go, "Okay, really? You want to do it? Okay, let's go." Um, I it was scary to me to do that.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm just sharing that with anybody who has a dream to write a book or do anything. Like, it's possible if you just if you just do it. Like, I had a deadline and I had 2 days to get them this proposal. And I was like, "Okay, I've never written a book proposal, but I'm going to do it because I want this book deal." And I remember coming out of my office when Wiley said, "You got a deal. We want the book." And I came out of my office and I was like, "Honey, guess what? I'm writing another book. Wiley wants to publish my book." And he goes, "Oh, God, when are you going to have time to do that? And how much is that going to cost?" And I was like, "No, they're actually going to pay me to write the book. Like,
Yeah.
it's different." Um, and I say that because my first book, I don't think I ever made any money on.
Hmm.
I first of all, that's a whole other story, but I had a publisher that I wasn't getting royalties at all, and
Mm.
it was out of pocket for me to pay for the editor and pay for everything. So to have somebody want to pay me to write a book, I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, wow, this is crazy. This is awesome."
Yeah, it does exist. Those people who say they'll help you write, produce books at your own cost. And if you don't know what you're doing or understand your reason behind the book, like it should be a business too, you could lose a lot of money.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that story too. Good. So for our audience, if they want to find you, learn more about what you're doing, or if you have any upcoming events you want to talk about, let's shift gears and kind of talk about that too.
Well, I hope to see you in April 2025. Unstoppable Success Summit. Now, I speak at a lot of different events. I'm speaking at an event next week, but my annual event is something that I love doing and love bringing people together. So you can find out more information at amberlylago.com. Um, and you know what? Shout out this podcast. Take a
Mhm.
screenshot, tag me and Angela. And when I see it, I always, when anybody ever tags me, I always reshare that. So tag me at Amberly Lago Motivation on Instagram. I'm on Instagram more than I am on any other social media platforms. But yeah, amberlylago.com. You'll find all the info that you need and all the events. And yeah, I would love to see you at our event in April. Can you come?
Yeah, that would be awesome. And when does your book Joy Through the Journey come out?
March 2025. Can you
It's gonna be
believe? Okay, can I just tell you something real quick?
yeah.
So I am going away for I'm going away to California and I've got every hour like planned out. And I'm taking my daughter with me. And I mean, every hour is planned out because I have so many great friends that I want to connect with in California. So I'm leaving Saturday morning. I get an email Friday evening. Hey, guess what? Your book is on Barnes and Noble. Joy Through the Journey, 25% off if you get it now. So we need you to
Yay.
post about it, do a newsletter, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Holy cow. I was not expecting to launch or share or do anything about the book until like October, November, maybe.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, let me share it. I had no idea what I was doing. So I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning in order to figure out like, okay, I got to post this before I get on my plans with my daughter and my friends and this and that. I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. Okay. I'm figuring it out
As
along
you
the
go.
way. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, But people ordered the book, and I had a lot of people screenshot, "Hey, I just ordered on Barnes& and Noble." I was like, "Thank you." And they're like, "Why doesn't it come until March
Mm.
of 2025?" I was like, "That is how the industry works. That's just
Mhm.
when it publishes, and I'm sorry." Uh, yeah. So,
It'll be a surprise though, because 'cause we'll forget that we ordered it. It arrives in the mail and you're like, "Oh my god, I've been waiting for this." So, it'll be great.
yeah. Well, let's hope so.
It
Let's hope so.
I'm sure it will. Amberly, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you giving back to my community as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I hope I get to see you in person really soon.
Yes, and I'm gonna bring the book and have you autograph it too.
Really?
Yeah,
Seriously?
of
Oh,
course.
okay. Okay. I can't
Awesome.
wait to see you.
Alright,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Empower Her Money podcast. I am grateful for you. Please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, like this podcast, share it, subscribe, and let's keep teaching others how to take control and be empowered with their finances.